Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host, Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. This week, we're going to be talking about lawn weed-killing chemicals, and we'd like to thank Shirley Ciotti for liking and sharing the podcast. And in September, we're going to be releasing our 9th home improvement ebook. It's going to be called Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know, Book 9.
Exciting.
To control weeds in crop fields in Scotland in the 1200s, there were laws against planting or allowing weeds to grow and spread seeds on your property. So to avoid being fined, people took weed control very serious, and Scotland became famous at the time for having cereal grain that was free of weed seeds. The herbicide 2,4-D was discovered and synthesized in the 1940s by a scientist who was trying to find a chemical to kill poison ivy because his kids were highly allergic to it. And now it's one of the most common herbicides in the world to kill broadleaf weeds. To control weeds in your lawn, you can use a pre-emergent herbicide, and this is going to stop weeds from germinating properly, and it'll also kill some seedlings. These chemicals aren't for actively growing weeds. You usually want to get this into the soil a few weeks before the weeds start to germinate in your area. A post-emergent herbicide is for actively growing weeds, and most work the best when the weeds are small and not fully established. There are selective herbicides, and they can be used on your lawn, and they're only going to kill specific weeds. There's also non-selective herbicides, and this is going to kill everything it's applied to, including your lawn.
Exciting.
You can get lawn weed control in bags as a dry granule and spread it over your lawn with a spreader if you have a large weed problem in your lawn, or if you're putting down a pre-emergent to control weeds like crabgrass. For actively growing weeds, you can use a pre-mixed herbicide in a hose end sprayer, and that's an easy way to cover a large area if you have a lot of weeds throughout your lawn. You can get a concentrate and mix small amounts in a spray bottle or a pump sprayer for spot treating, or you can also use a concentrate for a dial-in hose and sprayer for large areas.
What does that mean?
So there's these sprayers where you put a certain amount of your concentrate in it, and you turn the dial, and it will automatically mix the right amount of water to whatever chemical you put in the hose and sprayer. So
it's reusable.
Right, reusable rather than the one-time use like some of the other pre-mixed hose and sprayers.
Right.
For spot treating, you can get pre-mixed, ready-to-use spray bottles.
Do you want to start with pre-emergent chemicals?
Okay. So for most homeowners, if you're getting your pre-emergent herbicide at the home center or a hardware store, it's going to be marked as a crabgrass control. What's nice about crabgrass control is depending on the chemicals they use, it's also going to control a lot of other weed seeds. The disadvantage is it's going to prevent grass seed from germinating. So you're not going to be able to overseed your lawn or patch bare spots where the chemical's been applied.
Right.
Usually for 3 to 4 months for most products, but check the label. For newly seeded lawns or new sod, generally you want to wait until you've mowed 3 or 4 times before you apply a pre-emergent, but I would check the label. Do all your spring cleanup before you apply a pre-emergent. So you're going to rake up the leaves, remove debris. You want that chemical to be spread evenly into the soil so you're making contact with the weed seeds. You don't want to aerate or rake your lawn after the application because you want this uniform barrier. And check the application rate and the spreader settings if you're putting down a granular product. Generally, you want to water it in about 2 to 3 days after you've applied it with about a half an inch worth of water. With the liquid herbicides, check the application rate for your size lawn.
Okay.
Michigan State University says crabgrass starts to germinate when the soil temperature is 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit at a 2-inch depth for a few days in a row. So you can check the average soil temperature map for your area online, and that'll give you an idea of the best time to apply a pre-emergent in your area. And you can also keep track of the current soil temperatures. Another great indicator is when the forsythia shrub blooms. Texas A&M Extension says for cool season grass in the northern part of the U.S., A crabgrass preventer with fertilizer is a good boost for your lawn. But for warm season grass in the southern part of the U.S., don't use a pre-emergent with a fertilizer. When the soil temperatures are 50 to 55 degrees, many warm season grasses are still dormant, and it's not healthy for your lawn to add nitrogen right then.
Huh, who knew?
If you have a lot of crabgrass in your lawn every year, check the active chemical in the products you're using. Purdue University recommends changing the chemical from year to year to reduce the possibility of forming crabgrass resistant to the pre-emergent you use.
Really?
And as you get crabgrass under control, reduce the amount of the product you're using and then just spot treat areas like next to your driveway or sidewalk when you don't see much crabgrass in your lawn.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to LawnServe. It's Lawn, capital SERV. They have a subscription lawn care service, and they recommend prodiamine as a good pre-emergent to start with.
Okay.
I spoke to Preen. It's Preen. They have a product called Preen 1 Lawn Care. They say it'll prevent crabgrass and kill the seedlings. It'll kill dandelions and about 250 other weeds. Plus, it has a fertilizer for your grass. And to be effective, they say you have to put it down just as the crabgrass is germinating and the broadleaf weeds are actively growing because of the blended chemicals. So some of the chemicals need to be in the soil for the crabgrass, and the other chemicals need to get onto the leaves of the weeds to be most effective. So you really have to know your soil temperature, and you have to wait till you see the broadleaf weeds growing. And it's interesting, I looked at the product label, and it says, do not use on warm season grass like St. Augustine, colonial bentgrass, dichondra, or carpet grass. So you always need to read the label pretty thoroughly before you purchase a product.
Right.
In spring and early summer, if you have a lot of weeds throughout your lawn, you can use a granular weed kill and put it down with a spreader. You can use a hose end sprayer or a pump sprayer to cover a large area.
Okay.
If you're putting down a granular weed killer for weeds in your lawn, you'd apply it when the daytime air temperatures are 60 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. In areas with cool season grass, usually around April to September. Warm season grass, usually March to September.
But the weeds have to be actively growing for it to work.
Yeah, that's the key thing you're looking for. You want the granules to stick to the leaves of the weeds. And the younger they are, actually, the more sensitive they are to most of these chemicals.
So baby weeds?
Yes, absolutely. When I spoke to LawnServe, they said don't apply a weed killer to grass when the temperatures are over 85 degrees Fahrenheit. They say it puts too much stress on the grass. Another tip is cut your grass 2 or 3 days before you apply the weed kill to prevent the grass from covering up the leaves of the weeds, and only remove about a third of the grass blade or less. Check the label and apply with a spreader at the recommended rate. For warm season grass, also check to make sure that these chemicals can be used with your type of grass. Wet the lawn down with your garden hose before you apply the weed kill. You want the chemicals to stick to the leaves and be absorbed for the best results.
Right.
You don't want rain in the forecast for the next 24 to 48 hours, and don't water your lawn for at least 24 hours. Don't let kids or pets on the lawn until it's fully dry, and don't mow for a couple of days.
Okay.
If you're treating your whole lawn with a hose end sprayer, start from the farthest point from your shutoff valve and work with a sweeping motion to cover your lawn. You want to get your lawn wet but not soaked, so check the application rate or the square feet recommended. You don't want to over-apply. If you're using a pump sprayer and concentrates, read the label for the recommended mixture and application rate, and also check for your type of grass. The mixing concentration may be different for different types of grass. Some pros recommend half the recommended application for sensitive grass.
Sensitive?
Yes, St. Augustine is more sensitive than tough grass like we have up here in Chicago. And you have to be careful when you're spraying weed killers, especially on windy days, because that overspray can damage landscape plants and trees.
Once you get your main weed problem under control,
Okay.
it's best just to spot treat it.
Yeah, because there's still a lot of debate and research on the safety of many of these chemicals. So I would wear rubber gloves, goggles, a dust mask, long pants and a shirt, and then only use those work clothes for projects like this. And read the warnings. The EPA has signal words on labels. Caution means it's lower in toxicity.
But it's still toxic.
Right, exactly. Warning is moderate toxicity, and danger is highly toxic. And if you see a skull and crossbones, you should just pick something else. You know, the skull and crossbones has been used on dangerous products in the U.S. since the 1850s. When you're applying weed killers, keep kids off the lawn till the products are dry. You don't want them getting the chemicals on their hands and putting their fingers in their mouth, and you don't want that wet chemical on their skin. If your child or someone does get the chemicals on their body or they ingest them, you should call the poison control number. In the U.S., it's 1-800-222-1222. When you're shopping for a weed killer, look at the label for the list of weeds. If you know the specific type you're going after, it's pretty easy to find the right product. If you don't know the weeds in your lawn, or you don't care to learn, just look at the label for the chemical mixture. Most of these liquids will have 2,4-D as the main chemical, along with 2 or 3 other weed killers.
Right.
Try one formula and then keep the label. If it's not effective for the types of weeds in your lawn, or if there's a couple that it wasn't effective on, then you can try another formula. There's also different concentrations. So I looked at 3 different weed killers. The label all had 2,4-D as the main ingredient. In one, it was 2.29%. Another product, it was 3.74%. And on the third product, it was 6.42%. And they were all roughly the same price.
Interesting.
And then the chemical combinations were different too. I read the instructions on a bunch of liquid weed killers, and these are some of the things that caught my eye. Do not apply anywhere where the product would contact any person or pet directly or through drift. Do not allow people or pets in the area during application or until the product is dry.
How are you supposed to apply it then?
Do not apply when windy. Overspray can damage desirable plants. Do not treat when the temperature is above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Do not apply more than the recommended rate to prevent damage to your lawn grass, for example, 4 ounces per 1,000 square feet. Don't use in areas where you have ornamentals, vegetables, fruit, or trees. Wait at least 2 weeks between treatments. Some weeds can take longer to die. Spray when weeds are young and actively growing for the best results. Mow 2 to 3 days before you apply and wait 2 days after an application to mow. Don't mow your grass at a low height and leave the clippings in the treated area. It's interesting. Don't use clippings for mulch or compost. Don't use on drought-stressed lawns. Do not water for 2 to 3 days after an application. You want to wait till newly seeded grass is well established or after the 3rd mowing. Wait 3 weeks before seeding an area the product was used on, and adjust the nozzle for a coarse spray. You want to avoid a fine mist. That's going to reduce your overspray. Avoid using on warm season grass just coming out of dormancy. And don't over-apply. It can damage your lawn. Always follow the application rates. And then wash thoroughly with soap and water after handling and before eating, drinking, chewing gum, using tobacco, or using the toilet. A common warning I saw on all the labels I read: don't apply near water, storm drains, sewers, or drainage ditches. Don't apply near ponds, lakes, streams, bays, or oceans. These are toxic to fish, aquatic invertebrates, and they could affect non-target plants. Most of them recommended wear long sleeve shirts, long pants, shoes, socks, waterproof gloves, and eyewear. It's amazing how much you can learn if you just read the instructions.
These are kind of dangerous.
Yeah, well, I don't think most homeowners take the time to read them. And what I don't like is a lot of these labels, the printing is so small, it's actually difficult to read it.
Well, you are older.
Get a magnifying glass and read the instructions whenever you get a weed killer. I spoke to Alan Hain. He has the Lawn Care Nut YouTube channel, and his website is thelawncarenut.com. He said fall is a good time to put down a pre-emergent herbicide for annual bluegrass, which is a weed. in warm season grass. And it also will control chickweed and hairy bittercress.
Do you think that's a real thing?
You're just messing with me. For areas with cool season grass, putting down a pre-emergent herbicide will help control henbit, chickweed, dandelion, and clover. He says when soil temperatures start hitting 70 degrees Fahrenheit in fall, these seeds start to germinate. He suggests using the GreenCast soil temperature map. So it's green, GreenCast soil temperature map online. You can plug in your local zip code. It'll give you today's soil temperature, a 5-year and a 10-year average. It's kind of interesting. Ellen also has the Lawns Across America podcast.
Okay.
When I spoke to LawnServe, they said if you focus on a healthy, thick lawn, you're going to reduce the amount of weeds and also the chemicals you have to use.
Which is nice.
They
for the environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And hand weed. They suggest keeping your lawn at the tallest height for your type of grass. Most cool season grass should be around 3 inches high. Warm season grass 2 to 2.5 inches high. But you can go online and get the recommended height if you have one main type of grass in your lawn, especially for warm season grass.
And you actually know what it is.
Yeah, right. Some top-rated weed killers in home centers and hardware stores. Roundup. So Roundup, their regular Roundup kills everything. And
Right.
I think a lot of people get confused. They have a new Roundup that can be used in your lawn. So you need to make sure you read the label.
And follow the directions.
Absolutely. Ortho, O-R-T-H-O, Spectracide, it's S-P-E-C-T-R-A-C-I-D-E, Bonide, B-O-N-I-D-E, Natria, N-A-T-R-I-A, Preen, Scott's, and Bio Advanced.
You're not going to spell preen?
Preen, P-R-E-E-N. Bio, B-I-O.
Do you have anything else to add?
Once you get the weeds under control in your lawn, a thick, healthy lawn is going to help reduce weeds. You should add grass seed or plugs every 3 to 5 years. In the fall for cool season grass, in the spring for warm season grass. Water less frequently but deep. Your lawn needs about an inch or more worth of water a week in normal conditions. Mow high. Sharpen your mower blade every season, at least one time for cool season grass. Sharpen it twice during the season for warm season grass. And only remove about a third or less each time you mow. And give it some fertilizer at the beginning of the growing season.
Let's wrap this up.
You can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Himalaya, or your favorite podcast app.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
And you can subscribe to that as well.
You can download our ebooks, Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know, on Amazon. Books 1 through 8 in September, book 9.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating and review.
You can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow Cindy on Twitter @FixitCohost. And you can follow us on Instagram, Fix It Home Improvement.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.